Samita Karir, and joining us for the very first time all the way from the heart of Mumbai is my co-host Ankita Saxena. Ankita, we're thrilled to have you on board, so let's get the show started.
Thank you so much, Sumita, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure, but let's put the spotlight first on the West Asia, where major developments are currently underway. US President Donald Trump has addressed Israel's parliament hours after Hamas released the last 20 living hostages from Gaza. Israel too began releasing nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners as a part of the ceasefire deal brokered in part by the United States. Now, President Trump told Israeli lawmakers that their country had no more to achieve on the battlefield and must work towards peace in the Middle East after 2 years of war against Hamas and skirmishes with the Hezbollah and Iran. But the US has brokered peace in a rather fragile way.
Absolutely, Ankita, that peace is rather fragile. Although the US brokered truce between Israel and Hamas remains fragile, like I stated, but Trump is determined to seize an opportunity to chase an elusive regional harmony. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, he declared to the Israeli parliament in his address. In fact, the Israeli parliament welcomed him as a hero. This act also naturally leads us to the question, could Ukraine be next, and will Russia pay heed to Donald Trump? But ladies and gentlemen, before we go on to our guests tonight, let's listen into what President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say on the historic occasion.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
Between the two of us, between our two nations, combining Israel's military pressure and President Trump's unmatched global leadership. I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of American presidents. I've seen them all in the time that I've been here, and I've been here quite a lot of time. I've never seen anyone move the world so quickly, so decisively, so resolutely as our friend President Donald J. Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss this big story tonight, I'm now joined by Ashok Sajjanar. He's a former ambassador. Also joining us is Dror Eider. He's a former Israeli ambassador. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET. Now, let me come to you first, Mr. Sajjanar. It's a momentous occasion indeed, as hostages have made their way back home, and this was something that was discussed and debated, and whether there will be way back for the hostages. But what happens next? What do you anticipate will be the next few steps as far as Donald Trump's peace plan for West Asia is concerned?
Yes, thank you very much, Sumita, for having me on the show. You're very right. I think this is a development that needs to be applauded. This is a development that needs to be celebrated, because I think for the last 2 years plus, the hostages have been in captivity. They have been in the custody of the Hamas. Out of 250, slowly, gradually, in trickles, some of the hostages have been released. Several of them have unfortunately died in captivity. But the last of them, 20 of them that were with the Hamas, that were alive with the Hamas, they have been released today. They have come back. They have joined their families. So I think this is an occasion that really needs to be celebrated. This is the end of a chapter that had started on 7th of October 2023. That having been said, you know, what you said about what happens next, I think that really still is the big question mark, and all the hyperbole and all the, the words that we have, the extreme words of hope and confidence that have been mentioned both by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We'll really have to wait and see as to how they are brought to action, to fruition, because you would recall, your viewers and listeners would recall that, you know, something similar had happened just a day before President Trump took office on the 20th of January earlier this year. On the 19th of January, we had a ceasefire that was brought in. The whole process was to be in three phases. The first phase related to release of some hostages, some release of some Palestinian, prisoners also. And that went through, but the second and the third phases, they could not be completed. Here also, I think there are a large number of problem areas, and we could go into it during the course of the program. I don't want to go into them right away because there are several of them. And I think that will really will challenge the ingenuity and the determination and the resilience of everyone concerned, whether it's President Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the other leaders in the West Asian countries, as also of the Palestinians who are wanting to go back and establish their homes in Gaza once again. Sumita.
Right. Dr. Eidad, hi, this is Ankita also joining in. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Dr. Eidad, this is my question to you. Is it going to be that simple, that easy? Is peace going to be a cakewalk just by virtue of the history and the number of adversaries that Israel is surrounded with, whether it is the Hamas, the Houthis, or even, Iran for that matter?
So, thank you for inviting me to speak in your program, and shalom from Israel. So, first of all, we identify with India because both you and us are a very ancient civilization. So we saw many, many enemies in our history and we overcame them. And now we had a challenge 2 years ago in this fest, in this holiday that we are going to celebrate. They invaded, this murderer invaded our homes and butchered our babies and beheaded our sons and raped our daughters, etc. And these horrors for us reminded us how is to live as Jews without an independent state that can defend us. So first of all, I want to correct your news. Israel did not release prisoners. We are releasing murderers that butchered babies and women, and because we wanted our brothers and sisters home again. This is the price, but it is not the same as it was before. 2 years after, we lost our naivety, because we know, you spoke about home, Palestinian home or state. There will be no a Palestinian independent state because they had their chance 20 years ago in Gaza. In Gaza, they had the chance to build a new Singapore of the Middle East. Instead, they turned all this good area into a huge terror fortress that history has never seen. So we understand that if we let them do the same thing on the mountain of Israel, in front all the centers of Israeli populations, we will have Gaza on steroid. We do not believe them. So our lesson from this war is never again, not never again, Jews will be murdered. Never again speaking about Palestinian state, because it is a suicide created for Israel. So this is one thing. Second, about Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization that used its own population as human shields. Even now, they continue murdering their people. They don't care about 70,000 people that died in this war. as a result of their murders, their crimes.
Right.
They don't care. What do they care is only to fulfill
Right.
what they declared before. It means to destroy Israel
Right.
and to murder other Jews. So
Right.
this is what we have to fight even after this huge advance now with the peace.
Right, Dr. Ida. But going by what you're saying, does that mean that this peace is not sustainable?
The peace will be sustainable, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, and also Trump said, from strength. Terrorists understand. This is the lesson also for you in India. Terrorists understand only power, not negotiations. Power. When they afraid, because they were afraid that when Israel invaded Gaza, they were very afraid that they are going to lose even their last parts. They surrendered and decided to go to the table and agree to what Trump offered them. This is the lesson. And when we will be strong and we will enforce.
Right, Dr. Ryder. Right, Dr. Ryder, you were speaking here about a couple of points, and we'll come to each of those and discuss them in detail in just a short bit from now. But let me also bring in, sir, here, Ambassador Sajjanar. Let me also get your thoughts on the fact that the demilitarization of tunnel structures is also a critical part of the peace plan. However, Hamas has previously refused to lay down its weapons, stating that it would only do once a Palestinian state has been established. And that is something that Israel is opposed to. How will that then essentially be brought about?
Yeah, no, Sumita, you're very right. I think that is one of the most intractable challenges. And both of these challenges, actually, you have, put together in your question. That one, as far as Hamas is concerned, they have refused to lay down their arms. And this is one of the provisions of the 20-point peace plan that has been put forward by Mr. Trump. So I think what happens to this particular element, because what Hamas says is that if they are laying down their arms, that means they are becoming totally vulnerable, and they will really not even be able to defend themselves. So that is one particular aspect. The second is in terms of whatever is the future governance of Gaza is concerned. One of the provisions, again, of the 20-point plan is that the Hamas will have no role to play in that. And Hamas is, that is something that is not acceptable to Hamas. And of course, as far as the other West Asian countries are concerned, as far as the other global powers are concerned, we'll really have to wait and see as to how they are able to, pressure down on Hamas, or what is the sort of outcome that we are able to get out of this. The second point on this, very important also, is that as our friend, my co-panelist, he has mentioned that there is going to be a no two-state solution. Now, the whole international community has been talking about a two-state solution. This is something that the United Nations has also agreed, accepted this. This is also a part of the 20-point peace plan. So if Israel is not agreeable to having a two-state solution, then that also brings us to a cul-de-sac. And, what is the way out to that at the moment does not appear to be very clear. Sumita.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ambassador Sajjanar. And let me take that question over to you, Dr. Ida. How do you really weigh in on what essentially Ambassador Sajjanar has said in terms of the recognition of a two-state solution, recognition of Palestinian statehood? And, how difficult does it make things for Netanyahu domestically, since, his political future, his political career really depends on acceding to some of these demands by Donald Trump?
Well, let me remind my friend that Israel is as tiny as one neighborhood in India. This neighborhood named Israel cannot be divided to two states, because we are speaking about a peace agreement between Israel and India or Switzerland. We are speaking about the barbarian culture that is that these butcherers were proud in raping our daughters and beheading our sons. This is their culture. We cannot rely on this. Second things, even all the world will come and tell us, we want you to establish a Palestinian state on the mountain. We want to understand, Tel Aviv is on the sea level. Ramallah is 900 meters above the sea level. We cannot allow this barbarian to control our life, because we know that from our history, every place we withdrew, this barbarian established a terror place. And second, you know that Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, the chairman of the Palestinian Authority, is not controlling his area, because Hamas is controlling 80% of the Palestinians in the Palestinian Authority, not only in Gaza, are supporting Hamas. So there is a lesson from this war,
Right.
from this massacre, and the lesson
Right,
is
Mr. Eder.
that
Right.
the world, wait, let me just finish. The world must understand that Israel fought also for the freedom of the whole free world. This is not, we cannot give a reward to this barbarian and let them be free in our land when they can control us and butcher again and again and again. This is their culture. They do not have any other thing that they invented during their 50 years. I don't know how many years they live as a group.
Right, Dr. Eder. Right, Dr. Eder, I'll have to interject here at this point in time, and we do hope that these are some of the issues that will be taken care of by this U.S. brokered peace, and of course the demilitarization of Hamas, and of course breaking those tunnel structures. We do hope that those will be looked into. But Ambassador Sajanhar, now do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu could leverage Trump's sweeping support for him to sort of strengthen his own negotiating stance or delay Palestinian statehood recognition, given the fact that they've been against it?
Yeah, it is really, these are two views, these are two positions that are colliding against each other. So I don't really see as to how, there can be a sort of a meeting ground, because Prime Minister Netanyahu has staked his prestige on this particular argument, and he has repeated it over and over again that he does not favor a two-state solution. Now, this is, I have full sympathy, and I, agree with what, our friend Ambassador Idor is saying, that, Hamas cannot be given the right to coexist in, such close proximity as far as Israel is concerned. But as far as Palestinians, and I think maybe we really need to distinguish between Palestinians and Hamas. But this is not only an outcome of this particular incident that has happened from 7th of October. This whole issue of a two-state solution has been with the United Nations for many, many decades, and it is a result of those deliberations and those negotiations.
One more question.
So we'll really have to wait and see as to how this comes about. And Mr. Trump has also, by being present there, he has also staked his prestige on the success of this particular peace plan. And one of the most important elements of that is a two-state solution. So as I said, at the moment, one can't see as to how we will be able to find some meeting ground. But then that is the beauty of negotiations, of dialogue, of diplomacy. And let us see how we can work that out. All the world leaders are present there in Egypt. And, if they get together, there is some sort of a meeting ground, at least in terms of a framework arrangement as to how this can be worked out, under what terms, what conditions. I think that would signify a huge progress to the settlement of this intractable question that has been hanging over our heads for the last several decades.
Ambassador Sajjanar. That's right, and we'll of course be closely monitoring the developments at Sharm el-Sheikh. But let me ask you one final question, given we have to move on. Trump also suggested in his speech that on his radar will be the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine war next. However, the dynamics of that war are very different. And of course, we've seen how Trump and how Putin and Zelensky have sort of reneged. There's been a breakdown of peace and dialogue several times as far as that particular war is concerned. How do you think Donald Trump is going to address those challenges?
Me, Sumita?
You ask me?
Yes, sir.
Let me just finish. Okay, so first of all, Trump I need to go because it's holiday here. So let me finish and I will tell you shalom and goodbye. But just two comments. First of all, Trump has his own world order. So I wish him good luck with Russia and Ukraine. I just want to correct my friend. What the world has been said for decades is two states for two people, not only two states. It means two states for two people means the Jewish people. While the Jewish people recognize the Palestinian people never ever, even the Palestinian Authority, recognize the Jewish people as a nation that has autodetermination definition. That we have a right even on a little bit of this country. They do not recognize this because not only Hamas, even Palestinian Authority, they said that the Jews are not a nation but only a religion. So we are one of the oldest nations on earth, and this group, Palestinian, that never we did not hear about them 50, 60 years ago, they said that we are not people. So when we are speaking about two-state solution, remember there is another half for two people, and they do not recognize Jews as a people. So this is a point that the Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister, insisted that to recognize, and they refuse time after time. And the last thing that I want to say, good things, there is lots of agreements, peace agreements with many Muslim countries that even though there will be no peace between us and the Palestinians, I don't know what kind of peace, but there will be a great peace agreements between us and Saudi Arabia and Indonesia and other Arab countries that are going to change the whole Middle East, and also in eye to India to do this trade from India to Europe through the Middle East and Israel. So there is a good hope for change, and we pray for this change, even though we cannot achieve everything we want. Thank you very much, and shalom from Israel.
Right, thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us, Ambassador Ida. But one quick word from you as well, Ambassador Sajjanar, on the question, what is next for the noble Trump's peace agenda, China or Russia?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Mr. Trump is trying to do is trying to wean away Russia so that, the United States and the Western world does not have to deal with both Russia and China together. He wants to create some sort of a division. So he's playing a very forward-looking game. On that, of course, Europe and Ukraine seem to be some sort of a collateral damage. But what he's been trying to reach out to Russia, that is not yielding the desired results so far. But he's been treating Russia with kid gloves. And as far as China is concerned, at times it appears that, what his earlier stance was that it is a strategic competitor for the United States. Now he seems to be giving the impression that it is a only a strategic economic rival as far as the US is concerned. So we'll really have to wait and see. These are all things that are evolving at the moment. And the recent, the increase in tariffs, 100%. And then this morning he said, that we are going to take back those and things are going to work out fine. So
Right.
there is a lot of flip-flop that we see both on Russia as well as on China. And I think
Absolutely.
we'll really have to wait and see as to how things, how all these cards fall down as and when they do.
Absolutely, Ambassador Sajjanat. So several challenges that are emerging for Donald Trump as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. What are going to be the next few steps? Meanwhile, for the Middle Eastern war, for the West Asia war, well, that remains to be seen. However, there is a hope that is building that now there will be peace. But will that peace be sustainable? That remains to be seen. Thank you very much once again, Ambassador Sajjanat, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now.